Hi, Dan Thies here for Link Liberation 3. This is week 3, our first practice module. This is video number 2, Link Liberation from Scratch, Link Collecting. So this is all about gathering up stories and sources. Remember, I need 20 to 25 stories a week to do what I'm trying to do, and I'd like to start with at least 1 or 2 weeks worth of stories in hand and ready to go. So I'm looking for two things here. I'm looking for stories that I can share more or less right away, things that are just good to go. A great article about dog training or a video or whatever it might be. I'm also looking for sources of stories that I can go back to and get more. So websites, blogs, things like that that have great stories on them and lots of stories so that I can pick a few to use now and then I can go back to those and I can actually monitor those websites and continue to receive good stories that I can use as they publish new content. And of course, some stories are going to come from Twitter, the people that I'm following on Twitter, but these are not terribly important in terms of what we're trying to teach you at this stage of the game. Just understand that, just like we already talked about, you're going to find some stories that people are tweeting out, and you're going to want to retweet those or share those yourself. I am going to be using a service called Delicious.com to collect these stories together. And this brings us back to a very old school concept way back from Link Liberation 1, which I first delivered in 2009. Something called the Link Collector. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign up for a Delicious account. And I use Delicious. I like Delicious. There was a little bit of a scare about a year and a half ago about Delicious getting sold off or shut down. Well, it got sold off, and the folks that bought it are doing great work with it, so I'm still using Delicious. There are alternatives. There's Diigo.com, that's Diigo.com, two I's, and Pinboard.in. Now, Diigo is free, just like Delicious, and you can ask your own questions about whether they have a long-term business model there. But we don't really need to worry too much because if they did go out of business, we could just switch to using something else without losing very much. Pinboard.in is a paid service, and so if you feel strongly about supporting development of this stuff and you want somebody that actually has a business model that'll keep them in business, you can sign up for Pinboard, and it's not terribly expensive. Now, all these tools have what's called a bookmarklet, and we'll show you what that means in a minute, that you can install in your web browser that will let you do what you do with it. But for now, get signed up for a Delicious account, and we'll install the Delicious bookmarklet in just a minute. But for now, what we're doing to find stories is we're just doing good old-fashioned searching. We're searching on Twitter, so we're following people who are sharing stories, and we're following links that they share to find stories that we can share ourselves. And of course, we're using our paper.li or Tweeted Times or both papers to find stories that people have already shared because we use those tools to help us extract links from the stream of tweets that people send out so that we can find the stories that are about the topic that we want and add them to our list. And we'll also be searching Google and YouTube both for topics like dogs, dog training, pets, and other things if we know there are specialty topics like puppy training, house training, things like that. This is a multi-step process. It's a rapid-fire process. We're just trying to get a whole bunch of stories that we can share. So here's how this works. You do a bunch of searches. You open up a bunch of pages in tabs in your browser. I sometimes will have 50 or 100 tabs open in a browser while I'm doing research on stories for a topic. If you're using paper.li or Tweeted Times, then you can open those up and open, again, stories from those into new tabs in your browser. Once you've got a bunch of stuff open, you've got 50 pages or 20 or 30 or whatever you want to start with, open up, then you can just go from tab to tab and examine the pages. Ask yourself, does the page contain a good story? That is the page I'm looking at, the web page I'm looking at, actually a good story? Is it an article, a video, something that is right on topic? Also, the second question is, does the site itself appear to have lots of good stories on it? If so, we want to do different things. And if we're looking at a search result page, whether it's a Google search result page or a YouTube search result page or a search result page on Twitter, is it useful? Does it actually have good stories on it that we'd want to use? If that's the case, everything that's useful, every story that we like, every website that appears to have good stories on it, and every useful search result, I bookmark and tag using Delicious. So you can find the Delicious Bookmarklet by just Googling Delicious Bookmarklet, or once you've signed into Delicious, the first thing they're going to show you is this page. And the little thing at the bottom is a Delicious Bookmarklet. The way it works, any bookmarklet, by the way, you just drag it and drop it onto the address bar in your browser, in the toolbar. And when you do that, then you can click that bookmarklet, and instead of taking you at like a bookmark would to another page, it will actually cause something more magical to happen. In this case, it'll open up a little window that lets us write some information about the page and save it in Delicious. So, for example, here I'm looking at a story on the Washington Post that says dogs and cats can usually deal with the heat, but their owners must be careful. Okay, well, as long as you're not putting them in the car, I guess. Anyway, you can see the red arrow on the left side pointing to the Save on Delicious bookmarklet that's in my browser toolbar. And then you can see me zoomed in on that here on the right hand side where it says Save on Delicious. And all I have to do is click that to save a link to this page in Delicious. That will cause a little window to pop up that lets you create some information about it. Now it's already going to have the title and description from the page in it. It's already going to have a link already there, so you don't need to worry about that. You have a couple of things that you can do in here. One, on the left hand side, you can type in tags. So you can add a word like dog training if you wanted to. I'm not going to use anything like that. That's what normal people do. And you can check a box to make it a private link, which if you really, really, really want to keep the work that you're doing secret, you'd want to do that on a regular and consistent basis. One of the reasons why some folks prefer to use Diigo or Pinboard is that they both allow you to make private links the default. Over on the right, you can also add in a description, information, whatever you want to say about this page. Now, because I happen to have actually followed the link to this particular page from someone who tweeted it out, and they happen to be the author, I went ahead in the description field here and just wrote by @PetWriter. That'll help me later on when I want to tweet this out because I can include that in my tweet. I mentioned, most people on using Delicious or these bookmark and tag services are actually trying to make some sense of the web. They're trying to say, this is a page about SEO, this is a page about dog training, this is a page about sports, whatever tags they might be using. We're not doing that. We're using tags to help us with our link liberation workflows. So the tags that we'll use, and I normally just use these nakedly, are story. I'll add a tag that says story, then that means that I want to actually share a link directly to this item. I have identified a story that I want to share, and I'm tagging it now so that I can share it later. I can also add a tag for source, and this means that I have found a website or a search result page, like for example on Google or YouTube, that yields useful stories, and I'm going to want to follow that and track that as I go. And we'll explain how to do that here in just a minute. You can actually apply more than one tag. So if you found a great story and you can see that the website has other stories, you can tag it with story and source and then move on to look at the rest of the tabs that you have open in your browser. The cool thing about this is it makes collaboration and outsourcing and hiring people and working with different people very, very easy because multiple people can actually tag using the same Delicious account. They'd all need the login details, or they can actually each have their own account and just use the same set of tags. So, for example, if you wanted to have a group of people working on Nice Bloggy, and maybe someday we will, they'd use a tag like Nice Bloggy-story to tag stories for Nice Bloggy, or maybe they would shorten it to NB and use something like NB-story or NB-source. And of course, if you want to be really super secret, skunk works, and cryptic, you could make up tags that nobody else would ever guess or use, like KDJK4X or something like that. As long as you know what they mean and everyone who's working on it knows what tags to use, it works great. So that's it. Find a bunch of stories by searching for them. Just get them all open up in a bunch of browser tabs and then go through them and tag them according to the scheme. Now, how does this actually become useful? Well, it becomes useful through the magic of RSS. What is RSS? What does it mean? What's it for? We'll explain next in video number 3, the plumbing.